It is really a pleasure for me to be back in Tirana and to be reunited once again with our partners and friends of Western Balkans region. I would like to start by expressing my thanks personally to the Minister of Interior, Fatmir Safa, for hosting us in Tirana, and of course to my good friend, Minister of Interior of Austria, Herbert Kickl, for steering this meeting, for chairing this meeting in such a successful way. Today's ministerial, as I have repeatedly said, was an important one, with several very concrete deliverables in the area of migration, borders management and security, and another proof of our ever-increasing cooperation. The last few years have brought the European Union and this neighbourhood closer together, deepening long-standing ties and relationships across the European continent. We have been meeting a lot recently, which shows our common determination to face the security and migration challenges together. The migration picture, as you all know, is continuously changing, and we must remain vigilant and constantly adapt our joint response to new developments. Building on the Western Balkans strategy, we need to continue working together in order to reduce irregular migration, tackle the smuggling of migrants, and fight abuses of our migration and asylum systems, and finally secure our borders and improve cooperation on return and readmission. But at the same time, safeguard mobility and legal pathways for bona fide travelers. Today, we have achieved another milestone when it comes to cooperation on borders management. We have now, as you saw some minutes ago, signed the first ever status agreement with a third country, Albania, which will allow the European Borders and the Coast Guard Agency to deploy teams on its territory. I want to congratulate Albania for being a front runner in the region and beyond. This status agreement represents a huge milestone in our cooperation and will help us better manage irregular migration and further enhance security at the European Union's external borders. Agency teams will, for example, be able to perform border checks at border crossing points and patrol along the borders together, of course, with Albanian border guards. Let me stress, and I want to be very clear on that the European Border and Coast Guard is there to support Albanian border guards, not to replace or take over their duties and competencies. I hope that it will serve as a positive example and model for our work with all other Western Balkan partners. We have also discussed how to increase efforts in the region to further reduce irregular migration and smuggling. And the European Union and its agencies, all present here today, are ready to support the endeavours and cooperation of our partners on the ground. I have also reminded our friends and partners of Western Balkans about the importance of not only limiting asylum abuses, but also aligning their visa policies with the European Union in order not to jeopardize visa-free mobility towards the European Union. We will be presenting our second visa suspension report before the end of the year and assessing the state of play of all countries concerned. And now, when it comes to security, the European Union will continue to support the Western Balkans in strengthening their capacity to fight terrorism and violent extremism. Guaranteeing security for our citizens means dealing with threats that transcend borders. We will continue to step up information exchange among all competent security services with the support of the European Union's agencies. The political will and commitment is there. Now we have to interpret it into concrete actions on the ground. I'm therefore very pleased that today we signed the joint EU-Western Balkans Action Plan on counter-terrorism. The action plan sets out concrete objectives and steps over the next 2 years in countering terrorism and preventing radicalization for the Western partners individually, but also in the wider region, and for appropriate and targeted EU support. This includes effective information exchange and operational cooperation. The action plan is a big step forward for our common security and that of our citizens. The European Union will follow up with each Western Balkan partner on tailor-made priority actions. We will also build on existing networks of cooperation, for example, the new regional network of coordinators for preventing and countering violent extremism. What matters now is swift implementation on the ground. Finally, security is broader than only counter-terrorism. Today, Albania and the European Union's Drugs Agency also initiated working arrangements for cooperation on drugs. These working arrangements will allow for stronger involvement from the Albanian authorities in our joint work to tackle the drugs problems in Albania and in the Western Balkans region more broadly. This will not only be of relevance for the health of our citizens, but also their overall security. As we all know, the links between drugs and organized crime networks, sometimes even terrorist ones. Dear friends, the challenges of migration and security require comprehensive solutions at all fronts, require strong unity and trust between us, close cooperation with all partners within the European Union's family. As regards now the issue of disembarkation, I would like to once more remind that the European Commission has put forward a concept paper on disembarkation immediately after the June Council. The European Union is looking for a strengthened cooperation and coordination amongst countries on both sides of the Mediterranean, as we have a collective responsibility to do. A collective responsibility to stop, first of all, the loss of lives, to crack down on criminal smugglers' networks, and to reduce irregular pathways. We expect these discussions, now being steered by the Austrian presidency, to continue in the months to come. The European Commission believes that we need a partnership with Africa on equal footing. And I want to be very clear on that, and I have repeatedly discussed it with my colleagues in Europe, but also with our friends from the other side of the Mediterranean. We cannot impose camps on our African partners, and we will not. It is up to them to decide whether they are willing or not to do so. So this issue is open, and we keep talking about it. But let me focus again on our meetings today. I have reminded my colleagues here that the Western Balkans have an ally and friend in me. I will continue to fully support the efforts of all our Western Balkan partners in better managing migration, securing borders and fighting terrorism and increasing security. Ultimately, this is about building a common and prosperous space and future for all our citizens, and taking further steps in our shared European perspective and path. Thank you very much for your attention, and once again, thanks to my good friends, the ministers, next to me, who have done a great job in order to be in a position to say that, yes, we delivered. Thank you.